Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is at FeelThePaynePW, or Nick Payne if you prefer, and you're watching my 29th episode now on my F1 2020 MyTeam career, obviously with Payne Racing, and we're into season 2 now. So if you haven't checked out my last race, please go do so now. The last episode, of course, was at the Spanish Grand Prix, where I qualified in P3 in the last qualifying session, and actually made it 3 wide before the first turn, and actually broke later than the other 2 cars, and actually got up into P1. Later on in the race, the rain did start to come down, making it very tricky on the tyres that we were on, but thankfully I was coming into the pits anyway, which meant that I could come straight into the pits for the intermediate tyres to stay out in front to get the win that I needed after a race. To be honest, let's remember the race before that was the Dutch Grand Prix, where I did DNF, so it's good to get some momentum back in the tank, if you will. As you can see, all the activities, there was quite a few days that was left over due to Azerbaijan being the next Grand Prix, so we could literally just fill up every single day with all the activities that we could fill up with as we go on and advance on through all these activities now, as you can see there. As the thing is, with all the activities, I just wish there was like more days, to be honest, on the activities that we had, but unfortunately we got what we're given, and we can go on through now to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix to see how we can get on in qualifying. So as we come down the main straight here at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, brake at the 100-metre board, turn in into the left-hander, into turn 1, brake just before the 50-metre board there as hard as you can, get just before the DRS zone, go into full power as fast as we can up this back straight, just before the tight turn at the 100-metre board, brake there into the tight turn, into the left-hander there. As we come around each track, we've got Stroll just in front of us, probably causing us to have some dirty air as we go through the corners, but unfortunately he's on a quick lap as well, but thankfully so are we as we go fastest through sector 1, nearly brushing the barricade on the way through, brushing the wall, brake at just around the 75-metre board, sort of go hit the apex with one of the tyres, brake at the 60-metre roughly just there before the very acute chicane, shall we say, into the castle section as we go around into the fast section leading into the end of sector 2. Got to be careful with the braking point here, brake just at the 100-metre board, make sure to slow the car down as Stroll locks up ahead of us, careful not to hit the wall obviously on the way through the corner. As we go into sector 3 now, into the fast section, it's literally just one long straight. If you remember back to BAKU of last year, one long straight here, just this final turn, using Stroll just to keep having some slipstream from Stroll ahead, have a slipstream from the Canadian, and that does get us P1, and that's the fastest lap of qualifier 1, and Leclerc is in P2, so it's a 1-2 in Q1. As you can see there, it does stay exactly the same. We don't go out for another one, so we do stay 1-2, and then it's 3-4 for Ferrari as well in Q1. As we come on through, we try to set a time on the medium tyres, but unfortunately for us, we did make a few mistakes, and it did mean that we did lose a lot of time, and we did stay in P16, but we go out on a set of soft tyres to set a new time, and in Q2 we actually do go fastest in Q2, so we do go through into Q3, and as you can see, it's grey skies overhead, so we do go out on a fresh pair of softs. We do get the fastest lap of the Grand Prix with Verstappen, Vettel and Leclerc behind, and the rain does start to come down, so we do get out and do get pole position, but unfortunately for Leclerc it's only P4 for him, as we can go through into the race now.
Good afternoon and welcome to Baku. This was the arena, if you think back to 2017, of one of the most eventful races of modern history, with controversy behind the safety car, last-second overtakes, and a historic podium for Williams and for Lance Stroll. So let's find out what lies in store for us this year. It's time for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The Baku city circuit measures roughly 6 kilometers and is made up of 20 corners and 2 DRS zones. The circuit winds around the narrow city, through the old town, and even brushes against the city's medieval walls. However, as beautiful as the setting is, this track is also a ferocious technical challenge, where the smallest of mistakes could lead to catastrophic consequences for all of our drivers. Joining me for the Grand Prix once again is Anthony Davidson. Why don't we discuss Red Bull? What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. The rookie lines up on pole position and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo and Raikkonen, Norris, Hamilton, Bottas and Esteban Ocon, Sainz, Perez, Lance Stroll and Magnussen, Fiat, Albon, Antonio Giovinazzi and Pierre Gasly, De Vries, Matsushita, Latifi and George Russell ends our grid lineup. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
And obviously, with qualifying being in pole position, we do stay there, obviously. And obviously, Leclerc does stay in P4. It's going to be a one-stop strategy for us today. But if you look on the session forecast, it does look like there's a high chance of rain coming halfway through the race, unfortunately. And it's going to be intermediate, and then it's going to go to wet as we go to 5 red lights. And we're underway here as we go deep. Try getting to the first corner as quickly as possible with overtake, with a bit of rich mix, just to stay in front, go across the corner, and thankfully we've got a huge gap already of over a second to Vettel and Verstappen behind, who are battling to try and get it in front, and Vettel's actually got in front of Verstappen now as there's yellow flags behind us, which is only going to allow Leclerc to attack the Ferraris that little bit more as we come round each turn, as they keep battling, as Ricciardo is now got in front, up into P5 now, as we're still in P1, here on lap 1, and it doesn't look like it's going to change as we're just pulling away each turn, each corner, as they keep battling the 2 Ferraris behind us. Hopefully this is just what it's going to look like for the remainder of the race. Hopefully we can just keep pushing on, keep finding a way to get through, get past the Ferraris, keep pushing away from them as they keep battling. Hopefully Leclerc can push them and maybe make an overtake here, and hopefully Leclerc can sort of get up into P2, because that would obviously help us out massively in the Constructors as well as the Drivers' Championship, as Verstappen's currently in P1, remember, in the World Drivers' Championship, as we come around into Sector 2, end of Sector 2, into Sector 3. Leclerc still in P4, Vettel in second, Verstappen in third. As we come into the fast section, not to put the overtake on too early, of course, just to put it on at the right time, just as the road opens up to be a full main straight, as we've got car after car behind us. And Vettel's actually catching us down this main straight as we go across the line to end lap 1 in P1 now, and it looks like that's where it's going to stay. As we come down into end of lap 6 now, going across the line, we're going to be pitting this lap. I should have maybe jumped into the pits there, as the rain is starting to come down. We may have just been able to get a jump on a few of the cars up ahead if we did, but unfortunately we did stay out. And it is very difficult now driving on this track with these worn soft tyres in this wet track. Hopefully we could just keep the car in check. Hopefully we can keep the car just manageable as we brake, but unfortunately it's a disaster. We've got damage to our front wing now. We're going to be boxing, and we're going to have to change the front wing, but Leclerc, who's into P2, overtaking both Ferraris, is now right on our tail. We've got damage, struggling to keep the car in check, and try keeping the car in front of Leclerc, but Leclerc is pushing through, trying not to hold him up too much, but obviously we are trying to get to the pits as quickly as possible, as we're slow through each corner due to not only the fact of the weather, but due to the fact of the actual front wing literally being broken on one side. DRS has now been disabled as the rain has started to come down heavier and heavier, and I do think if we would have boxed, as I said, just before the end of that last lap, we might have had a chance, as Leclerc is looking to go through on the inside. We have to let him through, we don't want to make contact. I'd rather let Leclerc have a bigger push, a bigger gap as we go through just before the pit stops. He's going to come into the pits before me, which is disappointing, as we are going to have to double stack most likely, as Verstappen is now past me, ahead of me in the Ferrari, as we do make a little bit of contact. A bit of a warning from the officials as we go through, and we're side by side through the corner, and I can't get out of it. That's actually made Vettel actually have a collision with us, and he's actually made contact with the wall, and Kimi Raikkonen is out of this Grand Prix due to Vettel sliding and myself sliding as well. Safety car has been called out. We're going to come into the pits. Obviously Leclerc is in the pits as well, double stacking for the intermediate tyres most likely. If it's not, he's a blooming idiot. But everyone else is coming in due to the fact of the obviously weather. But as you can see, we're being held up massively by the double stack. Our pit crew just waiting there as car after car is now going through. We're being held up. We're having to change our front wing due to the damage that was already caused. And it's going to be a hell of a long pit stop. It's 10.8 second pit stop, and it was roughly around 31 seconds in the pit lane as well. And obviously car after car, we did pit in P3, and we're now down into P11. And as you can see, a few more cars have pitted as the safety cars come in, and we're right on the tail trying to just get in front, but the weather is just horrendous on these intermediate tyres. Maybe it might have been a good idea to jump onto the wet tyres as we come round the first turn down on the inside of Carlos Sainz. So at least we've made up one position so far since the restart. We've got Perez and Ricciardo up ahead as we're trying to look to make a move on them. Our tyres are quite cold still, so we are going to try having to catch up to them on cold tyres. And as you can see, it's very evident that the tyres ain't up to scratch yet, as Perez just is easy to pull away from us. We're thankfully still in front of Sainz and Albon behind, but Perez and Ricciardo are pulling away, roughly a second gap on us now. Don't forget there's no DRS due to it being disabled from the weather, but as you can see, the tyres just ain't up to scratch. There's no heat in them. The brakes just ain't working so far. It's very hard to drive in this track. Maybe it would have been good to swap to the wet tyres, because I do think it is full wet conditions now, to be honest. If you look at the way the rain's coming down, it's very difficult to drive through here. I don't know how the other cars are doing it in Perez and Ricciardo. As we come round the corner very slowly, try to keep the car in check. We've got Sainz directly behind us, and he's trying to make a move down the inside as we go round the corner, and we stay in front, and thankfully by a little bit as we come round into the very hard braking zone. Careful not to hit the barrier. Careful not to hit the barrier there, because that could be all game over if you do. That barrier is very unforgiving as you come through this Baku street circuit here. It's very difficult to drive in the like the normal weather, in sunny sort of cloudy weather, but in the wet it's just horrendous driving through here. As we've got Sainz still behind us, but Perez and Ricciardo are just pulling out a huge gap on us now. 4 seconds to Ricciardo ahead, nearly 4 seconds to Perez ahead. So it does look like we're going to have to settle for P8 at the moment. And as you can see, as we come across the line to end lap 14 into lap 15 now, we're still in P8. And we're going slow, we missed the breaking point and we've got damage. We've got damage once again. This wet weather doesn't help at all as we make contact with Vettel once again as he comes on through into turn 1. We're going to have to box this lap, I think 1 or 2 laps earlier than our original pit stop for the next set of intermediate tyres. And as you can see, we're boxing this lap, but we're all the way away from home with a hell of a lot of damage to our front wing. So we have to brake just that little bit earlier just to make sure. But I don't know if the weather's getting better or worse, to be honest, as we go through each turn. Make a small bit of contact into that turn as well. We've got Matsushita and Gasly behind us. Vettel and Ocon up ahead. But we've got a hell of a lot of problems as we make more contact. And it's a red and orange front wing. It's literally off our front wing. The front wing is completely off as Matsushita gets by us. We're careful to obviously brake through that corner there. Try not to fall down the positions too much here, as we're going to be pitting this lap. Careful to go through the chicane, but we do make contact. But what little front wing we had left is now gone as we come around the final corner going into sector 3 now. As we've got Gasly passing through, we're trying to get some pace, go around the corner, but the front wing won't change, and our front tyre is finally gone. Unfortunately for us, it's another DNF, 2 DNFs in 3 races. So that's another DNF where we're getting 0 points on the board, where at the start of the race we could have been on for 26, but it's going to be 0, and it's going to be Charles Leclerc who gets the win, and another disappointment result for us. Horrendous.
So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Rain always has the potential to liven up a race and mix up the order, and they've taken full advantage of that to claim the victory today. It's always a bit of a lottery when the conditions are like this, but they've managed to stay on circuit and have come out on top.
Here comes your top 3 making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula 1. Let's see how the driver.
So obviously we didn't get any points from this race. We did DNF, so not a great result for us. Abysmal in truth. We get 0 points. Leclerc thankfully getting all 25 points. Not good for the team race, teammate battle, but great for the constructors obviously. If we ain't getting the points, at least they are. And obviously for us, that ain't good considering they do go in front of us now. That's not something I've had in the first 2 seasons of this MyTeam career. This is the first time that our teammate is in front of us in the World Drivers' Championship, as Jack Aiken didn't do so, but Leclerc is. But thankfully we do move up into P4 in the Constructors' Championship with Leclerc's points, but unfortunately we can't help him get us back up into the top sort of 3. So that's where we're going to wrap up this episode. If you have enjoyed this episode, please like it. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Any thoughts, please comment them down below. I've been at FeelThePaynePW, Nick Payne. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.